Hey, brother.
Hey man.
It's been a while since we've created the space, but obviously we've had a lot of experiences, together and separate otherwise. But yeah, I'm excited to be here again with you.
Yeah, man, me too, dude. Yeah, we've done a lot in the past couple months. And super excited to be here with you. Super excited for what we're going to share today. Um, and yeah, super excited because, we've recorded roughly this will be our fifth episode and we haven't actually published anything yet. We haven't uploaded anything yet because we were waiting until both of us were able to commit to this every week so we wouldn't have to miss a week of publishing. And I got done with my seasonal work, and you're still doing some things, but we're both able to make that happen now. And so yeah, man, excited to upload the first episode this week. So here we go.
Yeah, did you feel like sharing anything about what you were doing in the past month or so, or
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I really desire to kind of do a couple of episodes on for sure. Because for some people it's going to be a really interesting thing to talk about. I mean, for me, it's super interesting, but yeah, I do seasonal work for 3 months a year. I'm a river rafting guide in Durango, Colorado, and for 3 months a year, I'm a hunting guide in Idaho. It is some of the most enriching experiences that I have in my life. It connects me to life and to nature in ways that nothing ever has, and it fills my cup 100 times over. And so I'm really excited to talk more about that in some upcoming episodes.
awesome, man? Yeah, and then we have the annual hunting trip that we go on together, and
Yeah.
that's always such a fun and beautiful experience up in
Yeah.
Michigan and in the Upper Peninsula. And it's my birthday party every year, so I'm grateful for everyone that takes the time to show up. And we had 13 people this year, and so that was awesome and just great times.
Yeah, dude. It's something that as human beings we had to do for a really, really, really long time. And it's only been within the last couple hundred years that we haven't had to do it. And it's interesting what happens when, you have a group of people coming together and doing it in a very intentional and wholesome way, gathering food for our families, and being very intentional about it. And so I love it. And what about you? Did you want to touch on what's been going on with you for the last couple of months?
Oh, I mean, sure, doing, as I'm getting married in March, so doing some wedding planning. Roxy, my fiance, took her sabbatical in October, so we did a month of traveling, which was so cool, without her having to work, which usually when we travel, she has some sort of responsibilities with work, and so that was really beautiful experience that month of October. And now I'm back here in Colorado working with my brother-in-law again, with his tree company that he is part owner and 50% owner. And it's always very fulfilling, being outside and working and being around nature and dealing with different people. And so yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Nice, dude. Nice. Yeah, hopefully I'll get to join you there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Um, so what do you thinking, man? What do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I mean, you brought up some good points. We spoke a little bit earlier over text and whatnot over just the idea of enlightenment, and so I think, and that was a pretty big step for me, in my journey. Um, this whole concept that we'll touch on in a bit, um, but yeah, just the idea of enlightenment, especially the concept of it being a destination that you achieve, where you're all of a sudden like you are now enlightened. I think that's
Yeah.
a very, very interesting concept that most people hold. When I started reading and started doing the things, that was one of my beliefs. And yeah, just everything that comes with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really interesting term and concept. And, I've been now that you bring it up, like what comes to my mind is like the myth of enlightenment, right? Because, for me, I was the same as you. Like once I heard that term and read it in different texts and stuff like that, that's how it kind of got put across to me. It's like, oh, this is an enlightened person, as if that's what they are now. In every single moment of every single day, this person is enlightened, right? And I mean, what is enlightenment? Like, what does that even mean? And so this is just my definition of it. It's pretty much like the ability to be in an aware, present, and loving state, right? Like in this moment, if I am aware, present, and exuding love, connected to love, then I am enlightened, right? Because everything that comes at me, everything I receive will be through the filter of enlightenment, will be through the filter of love. And everything that comes out of me will be through the filter of love, right? And so that is my definition of enlightenment. Um, I'm sure people have different definitions. I'm sure the dictionary has a different one, but ultimately, that's what it is, right? And so it's interesting to me that people that I have listened to for a very long time, people that at times I look up to and digest their information. It's interesting that a lot of people have this idea that, you know, as a human being, I can be enlightened. And from my perspective, it's just not a thing, dude, right? Like life is this moment. Life will always be this moment. On top of that, we live in a world, a 3D world of contrast. Without one thing, there isn't another thing, right? Like without dark, there isn't light. Without hate, there isn't love, so on and so forth. We're human beings, right? And maybe in a different realm, maybe when we die, and you know, maybe we go to a different place. I mean, I'm not sure. I have no idea what's going to happen. But one thing that I feel very strongly about is that I can be enlightened in this moment for sure. But to say that an individual is enlightened in all moments doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because ultimately all I have is this moment. The past is a memory and the future is my imagination or my projection or my assumption, right? And to think that an individual would never have a contrary thought to love, would never have a contrary feeling to love, would never have a contrary expression to love is just not within this reality. I'm not saying that an individual cannot get to a place where they are very, very consistently in love, for sure, man. I experienced that in my life, right? But I just don't think that as a human being, we should be, you know what? Let's even say it is a destination for a set. I just don't think as a human being, that's what we should be focused on. Because what I have found is that as soon as we create a destination, whether the destination is enlightenment, whether the destination is success, our definition of success, whatever it is, then in this moment, if we have not achieved what we think it is, then we will feel lack. We will feel unworthiness. We will vibrate at that frequency and we will exude that to the world. And again, for me, it's just an illusion. It's just not true. Um,
Well,
and so,
on the other side of that, if
yeah.
you truly believe that it's a destination and you reach the destination, then what?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, even when you reach the destination, you're going to very quickly realize that you haven't reached the destination, right? Like, it's just like everything, dude. It's like, you know, you get to a place in your life where you're like, ooh, I know now. And then very quickly you realize you don't know. You have another experience which makes you aware of something else. And then now you know something else. And it makes that thing that you thought you knew not relevant anymore, or just another piece of the puzzle, right? Um, and so, something I really want to express to people, something that I really invite you to embody and feel into, is that the journey is enough. The journey is enough. And if the journey isn't enough, you're going to suffer your entire life. If this isn't enough, if you aren't enough now, if this life isn't enough now, plan on suffering for a very, very, very long time, right? The only destination I'm aware of is death. It's really the only destination I'm aware of, right? And so I think enlightenment is a beautiful term. It represents something really amazing. And it's something that I strongly feel a very, very high percentage of people, if not all people, have experienced at least once in a certain moment, right? No doubt that most people in a certain moment in their life have been connected very deeply to love, right? And have been able to filter through love and express through love. I just feel that the belief that that is what you need to achieve creates something within your life that is not serving and not helpful for anyone.
Yeah, no, agreed, 100%. And that's something that I went through, as we spoke about earlier, when I, first started reading and first started looking into things, and then I think maybe it was a conversation that you and I had, or maybe it was something I listened to, but just the whole idea of like, enlightenment is a moment to moment thing. You might
Mm.
be acting in a place of enlightenment or a place of love, or receiving in a place of love one moment, and the next moment you could be, very emotional and reacting negatively, or what some people might perceive as negatively to certain situations. And yeah, it was a very powerful concept for me to understand, and it helped me quite a bit just being at peace with where I'm at, no matter what.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's a beautiful thing, right? So, like, for this moment right now, for everybody listening to just like drop that belief, just to let go of it and feel into the fact that, like, all right, like if the journey is the reason that I'm here, it's not to get somewhere. I don't have to get anywhere, right? There's no destination, but it's just the journey. And man, how light does that feel? Like it feels so good. Because ultimately everything is a part of the journey. Your suffering's a part of the journey. Your sadness is a part of the journey. Your breakup in relationships is a part of the journey. Like all of it's a part of the journey. So if it's all part of the journey, then all right, wow, all right, cool. So it's all part of this. I am here now in it. And so it's all becomes okay, right? Because as soon as we create this belief that enlightenment is the way, right? That that's where I have to get to, then subconsciously you start to judge, you start to resist anything that isn't that, as if that's not okay, right? Like,
Mm.
and that's just not true. It's just not true because in a moment of ecstasy and love, what's allowed you to get there is everything else. Like all the
Mm-hmm.
suffering, all the sadness, all the anger is what's allowed you to get there in the first place. That's what's taught you the lessons, right? And so to not appreciate that, to not accept that, to not refer to that and embody that as just as beautiful and just as amazing as the feeling of enlightenment, I think just isn't clarity and isn't serving us.
Yeah, agreed. It's definitely doing you a disservice to not acknowledge all the things that brought you to where you're at.
Yeah.
And again, it's like what I just said. It's a moment by moment thing. So you could be acting out of love in one moment and acting out of anger in another, and it's all okay. And it's impossible to, like you said, it's impossible to feel one without the other
Yeah.
if you don't know
And
the
if
contrast.
and if you could, you would, right? Which is crazy to think about. It's just like, and don't get me wrong, I'm when I say these things, this is me too, right? It's you too, it's
Mhm.
everyone, right? And so,
Yeah.
but it's like it's crazy to think about, that, in these moments of anger that I would possibly like judge myself for feeling angry. It's like, I mean, if it was my choice in that moment, I wouldn't feel angry. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I'm either not aware, I'm not aware enough to be able to transmute that feeling into love. Maybe I need to feel that in that moment, right? Maybe there's a lesson for me to be learned in that moment. And if all I'm doing is trying to push that aside to get to enlightenment, then I'm not getting the lessons. And that moment of enlightenment just gets further and further away. I do want to express to people that, if this is the case, right, and if enlightenment isn't a destination that we reach and now we are there, some questions that maybe come up for people, then like, what's the point? Like, what's the point in seeking? What's the point in changing? What's the point in, working hard or whatever it is that you define as your journey? What's the point if there is no destination? Well, I mean, what's your other choice? Like,
What's the point in
what exactly, right? Like, what are your other options, man?
living? Yeah.
Right. And so, like, one thing I can tell you from my experience, because again, that's all I can tell you. What I can tell you from my experience is that, you know, riding the journey and committing to the journey creates a lot more consistency, meaning that I can experience enlightenment much more consistently than I used to, right?
Mhm.
Which is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be able to be in love more often than I used to be, right? Um, but again, the only reason I'm able to do that is because I'm able to understand this concept. Because
Mhm.
if I didn't, it would just be so much easier to not give myself grace and judge myself and judge others. It'd be so much easier to just like create resistance in certain moments and not feel loving and accepting and allowing. And so it's really interesting how just the understanding of this concept that I'm not in some type of race to get to this destination before I die and all of this type of stuff, that it's an infinite journey, how that has actually allowed me to be more enlightened in more moments.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And something we've spoken about before is just the idea of like curiosity and how that can like intertwine with your concept of enlightenment.
Yeah. I mean, I know what I want to say on this. Like, I mean, how has curiosity, I mean, what do you want to say on it, right? Like, what does that term mean to you? And how has that been applied to your life when it comes to enlightenment or,
Yeah, I mean, I think being curious is an easy way for me to like purely be present,
Mhm.
and to whatever your definition of enlightenment is, but like that feeling of curiosity where you're just observing the world and actually observing it, and not just thinking about things and looking for things necessarily, but like actually taking in the world as it's presented to you and being open to that. Um, and I think another thing that I might be switching gears here, but like um, the idea of um, oh, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but if
it's
you
okay.
want to touch
Yeah.
on
I'll touch
curiosity,
on
man.
curiosity, and when you get it
Yeah.
back, we'll go from there. But yeah, dude. So like, you cannot be curious if you think you have arrived, right?
Mhm.
Like, if you think you know, curiosity cannot exist in that space because you already know, right? And it kind of goes hand in hand with the term destination. Like, if you think that there are destinations, like, oh, enlightenment is a destination, then when you get to that place that you think is enlightenment, you'll stop being curious. And ultimately, curiosity is one of the most beautiful things that we can experience. It's one of the most beautiful things that we can consciously bring in to the certain present moment. Because, as I said, like, I mean, think about it, right? When you were 10 years old, you thought you knew something. And then when you're 12 years old, that same thing that you thought you knew changed. And then 20 years old changed, and 30 years old changed. And so it's like, at what point are you as an individual going to realize that you don't know? Like, I don't know, right? I don't know. And what I think I know is consistently going to change. So if that's the case, then when I get to a checkpoint in my life where I think, oh, I know this now, be aware of that. It's not that what you think you know now isn't relevant, but remain open, remain curious, right? And I guarantee you that from that curiosity, certain things will come out of it. Number one, you'll be much more aware, and you will, meaning aware, right? You'll take the blinders off. And so as you're going through life, instead of completely missing something, you will see it. You will be aware of it. You will be able to digest it and receive it. And so you'll get to those next checkpoints a lot faster. Because again, if you think you know, then literally as you're walking through life, you will not see anything that has to do with that subject anymore because it is not relevant to you anymore. It's not real. You think you've reached the end of that subject, whatever that subject may be, right? And so your ability to remain curious is in direct correlation with your ability to accelerate your living, accelerate your awareness, your education, your spirituality, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, look at a child. right? Like how, like why is it that a child learns so much so quickly? Well, yes, there's a scientific aspect of it, right? Like their brain is much more malleable, right? So on and so forth. Um, but at the same time, they're consistently curious. Why? Because they don't know shit and they know they don't know shit. And then as soon as they think they know shit, how interesting is a child that thinks it knows, right? You look at that child like, you don't know anything, dude. What are you talking about? You're 5 years old, man. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Right? Now, picture yourself as that 5 year old, but you're 30 years old. You're the same thing, dude. It's the exact same thing, right? And maybe someone that's 90 years old, you say something to them and they look at you like, man, how immature and stupid are you, right? Or whatever it is, right? And so I've found it very serving to remain curious. I found it very serving to be humble and realize that I don't know, and then as I say that, what comes up for me is like, well, Ben, if you don't know anything, why are you talking right now? Like, well, hey, like why do you even have this podcast, right? Like, why are you sharing? Um, well, I'm sharing because that's the whole point, right? Like, this is part of the journey,
Mm.
right? And so, I've said this in multiple episodes already, and we're only on episode 5. It's like everything I'm saying, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm also not saying it's wrong. But all I can say is that this has been my experience, and if it resonates, great, and if not, great. It would be a completely different feel if I was on here saying that, hey, what I'm saying is the truth. It is
Yeah.
fact, and that's all there is,
No, and
right?
hopefully it makes people think. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Exactly. And inspires people to continue to be curious,
Mm.
and inspires people to take what we're saying not as the destination, but take what we're saying and apply it to their lives and see how it feels. Right. And if it feels good, great. And if not, great, man. You've just learned something new. Um, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that came up for me, just the when you're talking about the 9-year-old versus a 30-year-old versus a 90-year-old, and the older that I get, and I think you've shared this with me also, but like the older I get, the more I get to know my parents and realize that I had this idea that they knew everything all the time, and the older you get, you just like they're just like me,
Yeah.
and the more you can be curious like throughout your entire life, I think the more really it's going to serve you. But what I lost my train of thought earlier, it came to me. You were talking about knowing or thinking that right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea of like knowing, you might know these concepts of enlightenment. You might know how it is to react with love, or but you might not always feel it. And that's been kind of my experience, is like you might know these concepts, and you might know how it would be to react with love, and you might be reacting in a way that you think is out of love, but you're not actually feeling it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I think that's an interesting concept for me, because I'm a very, logical person. And so when things come up for me, I want to like logic my way through them, and say like, oh, this is what an enlightened person would do, or this is how I
Yeah.
should react, right?
Yeah.
Out of love.
Yeah.
And I try to react that way, but I don't necessarily feel it, and it never really pans out. It's almost like I still have this little bit of judgment reserved. You know, me being enlightened versus
Yeah.
the person that you run into, and you might see them as not enlightened. And so
Yeah.
that's something else we've talked about before too. Is when you see these people reacting out of anger, or reacting, and perceived or jealousy, or and any other perceived emotions, um, passing judgment onto them because you know better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
in reality, you're not acting out of love in that situation. You're not thinking out of love in that situation. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a beautiful part of the journey, right? And it's a moment where now your ego has attached to this new concept that you have. Let's just say it's enlightenment, for example, right? Let's just create an example, right? So like you have this understanding, right? This conceptual understanding of enlightenment now. You have read a book or seen a podcast or whatever it is, right? And you have this understanding of enlightenment. And now, because you have that information, that data in your mind, it's a new point that your ego can attach to. And more often than not, along the journey, your ego takes those points and attaches to them and projects them onto others like before self. Right.
Mhm.
And it's super interesting, and I laugh at it because what else are my options? I'd rather laugh at it than anything else. But yeah, it's been a part of my journey. It'll be a part of everyone's journey, and my invitation to people is, laugh at it if you can. Have grace with yourself, and just realize that it's a part of it. It's a part of the journey that we're talking about. And the way to continue to move through that part of the journey is to bring awareness to it, give yourself grace, and continue to reflect. Right? Reflect is it's been huge in my life, right? There have been many moments where I've been sitting in the car with Kat, or in the house with Kat, and I'm observing her, and she's doing something, and I'm having a conversation with myself, just judging her so much, dude. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, man, like, what is she doing? She's just stuck in fear right now. She
Yeah.
can't even do this, can't do that. And then like, at some moment I become aware of what I'm doing, right? And I'm just like, wow, dude, that's crazy. Why were you doing that? And I speak it. This has been like an ego crusher for me. It has been like something that has accelerated my life in an insane way. Like as soon as I am aware that I am doing these things, I speak it out into the physical world. So like I'm sitting in the car with Kat, I realize I'm doing it, I'm just be like, Kat, man, you have no idea what just happened. It's like, what? And I was like, man, as you were talking, all I was doing was judging you. I was judging the crap out of you. Like I was thinking this, I was thinking that. And I know that like that's not true. But it's interesting how like there's a part of me right now that was doing that. And this is what I learned from it. This is what I understand from it. This is how I would like to act, like what you were talking about, right? Like this is how I should act, right? And it's not so much how like I should, it's just how I would like to. But in that moment, that was a part of the journey for me. I needed to go through that to bring that into my awareness. And I may need to go through it 100 times, 1,000 times, or whatever it is, right? Trust
That's
me,
fine.
that's fine, dude. That's fine, man, right? It doesn't feel fine all the time in those moments. Maybe you don't become aware of it straight away. It takes maybe a couple of days. And then maybe after a couple of days, you're like, oh, I'm not going to talk about it now. I'm not going to tell her now. Just understand that that voice that doesn't want you to tell that person, or that voice that doesn't want you to share it, is the same voice that was judging them.
Mhm.
Right. And for you to, I don't want to say be rid of that voice, because it's a very helpful voice. I love my ego, man. It's very helpful. It's been a great teacher to me. And so it's not about getting rid of it, but to help that voice become enlightened in that moment. It's really important to have grace for it and love for it, and just say, look, I know you don't want me to say this right now, but it's okay. I'm going to say it, and everything's okay. You're still going to be safe, dude. And talk to that part of you, but look, it's okay, man. I've got you. It's still going to be safe. Everything's going to be okay. I'm just going to let her know what was happening, right? And she's going to love you too, just like I love you. I think our ego is so strong, and again, this is just through my perspective. It becomes stronger if we don't love it. It becomes stronger if we don't accept it. It becomes stronger if we don't create space for it.
Or if you
Uh,
don't say those things out loud.
Correct. And if you don't say those things out loud, and so it's like the more that you're able to like hold your ego like a loving mother would hold their baby, and let them know that it's okay, it's safe, and express what your ego has to say out. Because look, man, like you're saying what your ego's thinking when you're angry at someone or frustrated at someone. So then why wouldn't you say what your aligned self is thinking about the same subject? A lot of us, we get angry, we have an argument, and then we never actually speak the aligned thoughts and the aligned feelings and the loving and enlightened things that we have to say. We just let it go, right?
Mhm.
But the more that we can do that, we start to create an insane balance within our lives. And we also allow ourselves to reprogram a lot faster, because, as we spoke about in a past episode, reprogramming requires repetition. And so the more I can say it out loud, the more I can feel it within myself, the faster I'm going to reprogram those things that no longer serve me.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we just talked about this recently too, but um, also saying those things out loud that that your ego is saying to you, and a lot of times when you do say it out loud, how just absolutely ridiculous it sounds, you know?
Yeah,
Like when you
because
you just put it out there and you're like, wow, that doesn't make any sense at all. But you know, but you were just stewing on it for so long,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden you say it and you're like, wow, that sounds so dumb.
yeah. That's why like talk therapy can be so helpful for a lot of people. Just getting it out, man. We hold
Mhm.
on to it for so much, and like as soon as we can get it out, it seems to really really help.
Yeah, but another random thought I had on, unless you had anything else to add on
No, go
that,
for it. Go for it.
just random thought I had when the idea of enlightenment is, the I don't know if it's a contrast, but like intertwining the ideas of religion and enlightenment, and like
Okay.
deeply religious people and this idea of enlightenment, and maybe from my perspective early on, I felt that deeply religious people, it almost was like it was impossible for them to walk the path of enlightenment, just because they might have these ideas of like, oh, there's this is the path to get to heaven. And so yeah, I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, but
Yeah, I mean, it's a very broad term, religious people, obviously, right? There's like different
yeah.
religions with different beliefs. I know you know that. I just wanted to say it out loud.
Mm,
And so instead of talking about like religion, I'll just talk about belief systems because that's what religion is. It's just a belief system, right? And so belief systems can create the most loving environments, and belief systems can create the most hateful and detrimental environments, right? I
mm,
mean, just look at the world right now and what's happening around the world right now, right?
mm.
It's happening because of belief systems, right? Very deep belief systems that people are very identified with, and they are willing to kill for it, right? They are willing to kill people that do not believe in what they believe in, right? Which is crazy, dude.
It's crazy.
But at the same time, like allows you to realize how powerful belief systems are. And so what I will say is this is that what are you believing in? Is what you believe in serving not only to yourself, but to the all? And when I say the all, I mean everybody and everything, right? All facets of life. And if what you're believing in is serving to all, amazing. I'm sure that will lead you to moments of enlightenment, more consistent moments of enlightenment. I'm sure it will. If what you're believing in only serves you, then I would say no, it's not going to. Service to self versus service to all is a big difference between those two. And when I say service to self, what I mean is like, if there is someone else that has the exact same belief system as you, then that's also service to self, right? Like, yeah, maybe you're not going to judge them, but again, you guys have the exact same belief system, so they become
Mhm.
you. Essentially, they're you,
Right.
right? It's the exact same
Mhm.
thing. And so, yes, you can have a group of people that are service to self that act as one, right? So don't get it twisted that, oh, yeah, but they're also serving that person. It's still service to self, right? Compared to service to all. I use
Mhm.
the word service to all instead of service to other, because I just think it creates a much clearer picture, um, rather than bringing in service to other. But it's definitely something else I wanted to talk about on a podcast episode was service to self and service to all and stuff. But I think belief systems aren't required in order to live this life, in order to get to enlightenment. I think there are many ways to get to experience enlightenment in moments, get
Mhm.
to experience love and so on and so forth. I think there's many ways to get there. But again, like if you have a belief system that you think there's only one way to get there, then again, it's very likely that you're probably going to judge other people that aren't doing it the way you're doing. And again, as soon as that comes in, it's very hard to get to a loving, open place. And so
I
I
do I
think,
do think that honestly, religion, um, throughout the world, I think gets more people to a place of enlightenment than it doesn't. And personally, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to think about that, but it you know, just like going to church, right?
mhm,
It sets aside time for you to reflect,
mhm,
and to meditate and pray and whatever. And it's like a dedicated time, to where people who don't. necessarily don't identify as religious and they're not taking that time.
Hmm.
I think it's almost in a lot of cases, this obviously isn't true for everyone, but in a lot of cases, I think it's almost more difficult for them to connect to everybody else in the world and to like experience, God or the divine.
Hmm.
Uh, so I do think I was just interesting. I was interested to hear what your thoughts on that were, um,
Yeah.
because I do think that if religion can lead to enlightenment, and obviously you have Buddhism, and that's like the whole idea, right? But I'm talking to all religions, like
Hmm.
Christianity,
Yeah.
Orthodox, whatever it might be, Judaism, even Islam. Um, there's that whole idea of connecting to something other than yourself, and I think that's powerful, and I think that is, in its own way, a version of enlightenment.
Yeah, I do have thoughts on that. So again, I'll say like it really depends on what your belief system is,
Mm,
obviously, right? And so that's super important. Like, what are you believing in? Are you believing in fear? I mean, like, are you in fear of your God? Because if you're in fear of your God, it's very interesting.
it's tough.
Right? Very interesting. But yeah, I think it just really depends on what you're believing in. I also have observed when it comes to religion that normally it comes into your life two different ways. It either comes into your life like you were born into it, right?
Mm,
So, like your family is Christian, for example. And so as you grow up, they're taking you to church and they tell you what their beliefs are as if they're real. And when I say real, again, they're beliefs. I want to be really clear about that, that all religions are beliefs, they're belief systems, right? It's not like this microphone that's in front of me. Right. I don't believe this microphone is in front of me. I guess we could get into that. I kind of do believe this microphone in front of me. That's a whole nother thing, dude. Yes, this is a bunch of atoms. Anyway, let's not go crazy right now. But yeah, it's a belief system, right? And so, or the second way that it can come into your life for a lot of people is when you are at your lowest, right? For a lot of people, when they're at their lowest, they start to seek. It happened for me too, right? I was at my lowest and I started to seek. I didn't go to religion, but some people do. And so there, you're looking for something, you're looking for an answer, you're looking for something to ease your pain, you're looking for something to ease your suffering. Some people go inside themselves, some people go outside of themselves. And what I mean by that is some people will start to worship a god of a certain religion. Other people will go inside themselves and find that same strength and power within themselves, right? And when I say within yourself, I don't mean like, oh, look at me, I'm so powerful and amazing. It's pretty much the exact same thing and the exact same power and force that you find through a God, but you find it through yourself because you are the universe incarnate, right? Like you are the universe manifested. Right? This body, this soul is the universe manifested. And so you can connect to that divine so many different ways, right? And so whatever way feels good for you to connect to the divine, amazing, man, beautiful. Just continue to be curious. I think that's another thing with religion is like sometimes a lot of people have think that they've found the destination and they stop being curious, right? They read the text and they're like, the text is the destination,
mm,
when really the text is just a finger pointing in the direction for you to walk and experience in order to continue to find yourself. And again, find those moments of enlightenment and love. But yeah, I would say remain curious regardless. Always be wary when you're not curious. It doesn't matter who your God is or what you believe in. As soon as you find yourself not being curious and like you've arrived, I'd always be wary of that and just bring awareness to that and continue to bring curiosity. If you do have a very strong belief in one thing, I would encourage you to open yourself up to the many other beliefs that are out there and remain curious because it can only deepen your faith, and it can also perhaps change your faith. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's going to deepen your faith.
mm.
Either way, it's going to deepen your faith, which is super cool. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Um, I mean, that's pretty much the thoughts I had. I do think it's part of the human experience to try to figure out, and become kind of not necessarily, well, I guess, yeah, for lack of a better term, part of something bigger,
Mm-hmm.
and to connect with that. And whether that's your belief in all of us being interconnected and the universe having to play a part, or let's believe in God, which is just, in my opinion, just another way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the fact that we're all connected and we're all children of God. I think that applies to pretty much every religion. Again, I'm sure there's sects and other, parts of religion that aren't necessarily as open. But yeah, I just think, on the whole discussion of enlightenment and religion, I think it's most of the time it's just saying the same thing in different words, and I think that's
Pretty
important.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And again, like based on where we are as an individual in that moment, you will read a certain religious text and receive one thing, and then you read the same text like 10 years later and you receive another thing, and so on and so forth. And so yeah, I mean, we know when I read religious texts, all I take from it are the same things that I take from life. And so when the text says something that I don't really align with, it's okay. I'm open to it. I digest it. I do my best to understand it, and I continue forward. But yeah, I think religion is something that we should definitely talk more about. But ultimately, it's a belief system. It's all it is. And so whether your belief system is religion or whether your belief system is something else, I mean, just think about all the things that we believe in as human beings. I mean, we create so many belief systems, man. And that's what causes us to argue. Like as soon as we like really identify with one thing and we become that thing, and someone else talks about something contrary around us, it's very easy to like want to argue about that and so on and so forth. And so that's why, like, for me as an individual, I don't, I don't really look to like create identifications with my beliefs. Like, I have beliefs, of course I do, man. I don't think any human in this world doesn't believe in something. Again, like I said, this microphone wouldn't be here if I didn't believe there was a microphone here, in that context, right? But I think it's really important to continue to question your beliefs, and I think it's really important to not identify with your beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah, man. One of the things I'm coming away, one of the biggest things I'm coming away from this conversation with is just the importance of just curiosity and staying curious and being open, realistically.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool concept that I think a lot of people can get a lot out of.
Yeah, agreed. Something I would want to leave with people is, the lightness of the realization that, there's nowhere for you to get. There's nowhere for you to get.
Mhm.
There is no destination at the end of this. And so enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. And as soon as you realize that you're making it so important, as soon as you realize that you're judging yourself based on what you're doing in this moment, just see if you can come back to the realization that it's okay and you're just on the journey like all of us. And hopefully that brings you some peace and allows you to take the lesson from that moment.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your insight. Yeah, and thank you for again creating the space with me. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, dude, I'm pumped, man. Appreciate you, dude. Thank you for sharing your perspectives and thoughts. And yeah, let's get this going, dude. I'm excited to get the first episode out there and start sharing this space with everyone. And everyone that's listening, thank you. Thank you for listening. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you soon.